In this video, I'm going to check out two great pairs of Beyerdynamic headphones, the DT770s up against the newer DT700s. I've worn the DT770s for years. They were my first pair of studio reference headphones I ever bought when I was building my new studio. And they're kind of my right-hand cans, as it were, the ones I always turn to. I know exactly what to expect from them, and I didn't really think I'd ever change until I tried the DT700s about a year ago, and they really got my attention. At nearly 100 years old, Beyerdynamic should know a thing or two about building great studio headphones, and they do. It shows. In fact, the first pair of commercial headphones that they released to market were so good they stayed available for around about 75 years. And you can kind of trust what you're going to get from Beyerdynamic. You know the sound, you know the quality, but when they bring something new to market, like they did a couple of years ago with the DT700s, it's always going to pique interest, and we all want to know what they're like. So I thought, around about a year on now, from having used these two pairs of closed-back headphones all of the time, it'd be worth just revisiting and seeing if my opinions have changed and which pair I use more on a day-to-day basis. Something you'll notice as soon as you pick these headphones up is the difference in weight. The newer DT700s are a bit heavier at 350 grams. That makes them just fractionally lighter than AirPod Pro Max if you've used a pair of those. And the older DT770s, they weigh in at around about 280 grams. The 770s are available in three specifications. You can get the 32 ohm, the 80 ohm, or the 250 ohm. And explaining it away really simply, the 32 ohm will be suitable day to day on any smartphone, any tablet, any computer. You can just plug them in and use them, and you'll have plenty of loudness, basically. You don't need to worry about the drivers in them at all. They're kind of a very commercial coverall use. The 80 ohms fall somewhere in the middle. They're the pair that I've got, and the majority of people that I see wearing the 770s tend to have the 80 ohms. You can use them with smartphones if you want to, but you can also use them in the studio. And then, of course, going to the 250 ohm ones, those are the ones that you'll definitely need to be using with a DAC or some kind of audio interface, just to give you a little bit of increased loudness, a little bit more attenuation, a little bit more volume when you're working in the studio. So basically think of it, you've got the 32 ohms, which will suit every use, the 80 ohms, which will suit most uses, and the 250 ohm ones, which really are for the domain of studio use. Sustainability, durability, comfort, let's have a look at that now. On the 770s, well, I've had those longer, and on both pairs of my headphones, I've never had to change the headbands. They've been really, really well wearing. If you did need to change them, of course, it's pretty simple, just on these popper studs that you can see here, and you can order all the spares online or direct from Beyerdynamic. Now, where things get a little bit more fiddly on the 770s is on the ear cups. You need a hairdryer, believe it or not. You can pull off the old ones easily enough, but it's getting the new ones on. The reason you'll want to change them is over time they just compress a little bit, they become greasy and dirty, and the fit seems to lack a little bit over time. It goes to that sort of magic period where they form really beautifully to your head, and suddenly they become hardened and they don't sit as well as they should and isolate you as well as they should. Now, I've tried washing them. That kind of works, but I suggest if you are keeping the 770s, get some new ear cups. But what you'll need is that hairdryer just to soften the plastic that goes around behind the back of the ear cups, just to soften that up, to lever it over the side. It makes things so much easier. If you do that, then apart from being a little bit fiddly, it's totally, totally doable, and it brings the headphones back to new. Now, one of the other reasons that a lot of people have to change their 770s ahead of time is because the cable is not renewable. That's something that Beyerdynamic have addressed now, I'm glad to say, and we'll get onto that later. But the 3-meter cable, which is long and means you do often trip over it on the 770s, is not replaceable. So it's often the case if that cable or the connection gets damaged, then people are having to replace the entire pair of headphones, which is a real waste of money. And I'm glad at least now Beyerdynamic have begun to address that. The cables on either the 770s or on the 700s come fitted with a 3.5mm jack. But don't worry, in the box, amongst all the goodies, you also get a 6.35 gold-plated adapter, so you'll be able to use it with DACs and audio interfaces, no problems at all. Let's look now at the 700s. Well, I'm glad to say that Beyerdynamic really have been learning their lessons, and these pair of headphones are so much easier to maintain over a course of time. The ear cups twist on, twist off. They take moments to replace, and they're more comfortable as well. They're thicker, they're more padded because of the pressure, the headband pressure. They fit really well around your head. They isolate you better, which being closed-back headphones I like, and is part of their purpose, of course. The two cables you get are of two different lengths. You get a 3-meter one and a 1.5-meter cable. I tend to generally use the 1.5-meter cable. I'm in a smaller studio, so that means there's less cables to trip over. And the headband too is super, super simple to replace. Just pulling that orange tab off it pops. And again, as I mentioned, you can get all of these spares online. They're easily available. But on this pair of 700s, one of the big ticks in favour for me of their sustainability is the fact that the ear cups, the headband and the cables are all interchangeable, which means these headphones really should last you for years and years to come. They both have a pretty wide frequency range. The 770s going from 5 Hz all the way through to 35,000 Hz, and the 700s range between 5 Hz and 40,000 Hz. And it's those ranges that make the headphones such a joy to work with and listen to. The drivers are rarely pushed, and you can work at attenuated volume levels very, very comfortably. When you're trying out new headphones, it's really important to have some reference tracks that you can turn to that you know really, really well, so you can trust what you're listening to. I tend to spread the genres. I'll have something that's spoken word, I'll have an instrumental track, generally jazz, maybe from the 50s, a beautiful Van Gelder kind of Blue Note recording or something like that. And then I'll have something that's on vinyl and is a vocal track, so that I'm getting a mixture of everything. I'm getting all kinds of different nuance, but the most important thing is I know what I'm expecting to hear from those tracks at various points in those tracks, so I can put any new pair of headphones through their paces and compare them reasonably fairly to check out what I think they're going to sound like for my work, my workflow on a day-to-day basis. The newer 700s overall are a cleaner listen, I'd say, in particular the way they handle the vocals. They just seem to be better balanced on all vocal delivery. The mids are improved on these over the 770s as well. The bass has been tweaked by Beyerdynamic, and whatever they've done is very much to my liking. Not over colourful or heavy, but just more pronounced. And the only area that I noticed the 700s were lacking against the 770s was they were ever so slightly missing in the highs. But that's me being ultra picky, and of course sound is pretty subjective. My guess is, though, that what Beyerdynamic have done is looked at the very popular, the hugely popular 770s that have been around and in studios and professional use for years and years and years. I reckon they took all the best bits of those, migrated them over to the 700s, brought them up to date, gave them a facelift. And if you like, think of this 700s almost as the 770s with a facelift for the 2020s. The soundstage is very, very similar. You'll recognise them as Beyerdynamic headphones straight away. But all they've done is taken the best bits and improved on them. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But over the course of the last year, the pair of headphones that I reach for on a daily basis has actually switched, believe it or not. The 770s were like this comfortable pair of slippers that I always reach for. I just knew what I was going to get with them. I trusted them implicitly. As I said, they were like my right-hand cans. I just went for them all the time. But then I realised I wasn't giving the 700s a fair crack. And as soon as I started to use those for a few consecutive days and months, boy, I really fell in love with them. It was particularly the way they delivered the vocals. Now, I don't know if that's something to do with these new Stellar 45 drivers that are inside of the 700s, but it's that vocal delivery, which is so important in the work that I do, particularly as I master a lot of podcasts and mix a lot of podcasts. Having great vocal delivery is ever so important to me. And I just love the way that the 700s sound. They react so quickly to the dynamic ranges, the way they flow effortlessly through audio peaks and lows that are joy in all Beyerdynamic headphones, but in particular on these newer 700s. Which pair are right for you? Well, that's hard to say, but let me just put it this way. If you're getting to the point where your 770s are getting tired, maybe the cable's damaged, maybe the jack's damaged, or you just can't face the pain of changing those ear cups, and trust me, it is a bit of a pain, then I really suggest that you think of looking at the DT700s. They're a great pair of headphones, but the awesome thing is that it won't surprise or shock you. You're still working with Beyerdynamic, you're still within that soundstage that you'd expect from Beyerdynamic, and all it is, as I said, is a grown-up version ready for the 2020s. It's the same basic core elements you're going to get, but just refined and that little bit better. So from sitting on the sofa enjoying some music or content in the evening to working in the studio, the 700s really are a forgiving pair of headphones that I've grown to love and now actually turn to day after day ahead of the 770s. And I didn't ever think I'd be saying that. So for me, I turn to the 700s now ahead of the 770s, which I never thought would be the case. They're just gorgeous. They're great to work with, and they're comfortable over long periods of time. I really hope this has helped you possibly make a decision. If your 770s are getting tired or you just fancy a change to another pair of Beyerdynamic headphones, I really think you should give these 700s a go. I love them, and they are the closed-back headphones that I turn to every time now. If you've got a few minutes longer and you've enjoyed this video, don't forget, drop it a like, it would really help me out. But also stick around because I'm going to put a video up at the end that if you or somebody that you know is thinking of choosing your first pair of studio headphones, I made a video last year that just explains away all the jargon and makes it really, really simple for you. Guys, I hope this has been a helpful video. Thank you for watching it through to the end with me, and I'll catch you on the next one.